Hello and welcome to another episode of The Zoo. Today we're going to compare cloud services with on-premise services. We're going to see where the money-making situation is, where can you save a bit, where you're going to lose some, it's not what you think it is, where do you get the best deal? Do you pay a lot? Do you get the feature you pay for? And then we're going to skip all this with security, risk, and governance because that's been hashed to death. Instead, we're going to focus on the future. Is cloud really as big as it's going to be? Here to help me discuss this is Jeff Moloughney from Los Angeles. Good morning, Jeff.
Hello, everybody.
And Chris Rixon from Wales. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well, and good afternoon.
Let's start with you, Chris, because you're the smartest of us three.
Oh dear.
Do you believe in this whole myth, because the math proves it wrong, that cloud services are cheaper than on-premise? There's always this idea, oh, you don't have to pay so much for it, but after 5 years of subscription, it sort of catches up. Why is this not? Am I missing something here?
No, I don't think you are. I think in the early days, when we didn't fully understand what it was like to live with and own one of those solutions, it was pretty easy to extrapolate from a monthly charge and think, well, I'm not going to have to maintain it anymore, and someone else is doing all of that, so I'm not going to have to do that anymore. I'm going to have no more capital expenditure for the hardware, so that's going to be gone. So you can see how you might think that this is going to end up being cheaper. But I think outside of a rarefied few cases where the company in question is using it in a very, very simple fashion with no customization and minimal updates over time, probably is. But I think the reality is that from a cost perspective, they're pretty much on parity these days. I think you're right.
How about you, Jeff? You used to be big into Remedy Force and the cloud in general. Was that a value proposition that resonated with customers, that it's cheaper in the cloud?
I think it was to begin with. But those lines are always going to cross, as you point out. 3 years, 5 years, kind of depends on what you're doing, right? So cost is, I think, originally played a factor, but I don't think cost played the number one factor necessarily. I think the number one factor was that organizations or divisions got sick of the stodgy on-premise applications that just took longer to implement and took longer to upgrade. And they weren't necessarily using all the bells and whistles of an enterprise application. So people like Salesforce came in and said, okay, we'll do this much quicker, and you'll get the value out of the application. We'll shorten the time to value to almost immediately. And yeah, we may not have all the bells and whistles as the other enterprise CRM players, but we'll give you good enough software applications. So I think it was, cost was, yeah, a factor, but I think it was the fact that it was just more nimble, it was more quick, and you can always sort of get something turned on, whereas the stodgy enterprise applications, the viewpoint was it's just difficult.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Chris, if I look at our customers at BMC Software, for example, who's in the cloud, not all of them have turned on all their features. Not all of them are using the bells and whistles that come with subscription, and it's not been turned on for them. They've been provisioned for them, but you have to then take it into production. Is this another myth that we're looking at, that you get the most out of cloud?
I don't think it's a myth. I think that you will find that any software, regardless of where it's delivered, regardless of what software platform or what delivery platform it runs on, there's the 80-20 rule, right? So 80% of people are using 20% of the functionality 80% of the time. I don't think that changes, and I think that's all you're seeing. I don't think that there's anything mysterious going on there. It's just the nature of software. But I think Jeff made an earlier point that I thought was fantastic, and actually reiterate. So while cost may be at parity, there is something about convenience and speed and that critical time to value that is immensely compelling and remains compelling about cloud. And I think what you do see is adoption of functionality over time. So I suspect if you charted that percentage, once people have got over the initial flurry of excitement of look how fast we're up and running with core functionality, I think you would see it sort of nicely, steadily tick up as they start to explore more and more of what they're already paying for, in essence. So, yeah, no difference, I don't think.
But there's an argument, if you go back to another point that Jeff made, is most cloud solutions are good enough. And that's fair. And they're easy to provision, and they're easy to consume, and they're very lightweight. And that also has a downfall. It's not easy to get an enterprise IT service management solution, let's say. Product up and running from the cloud with all the bells and whistles that you need to run a properly automated enterprise. When will that happen? When will we have a pure SaaS that is as powerful as SAP? Because I don't believe we're going to switch to this gargantuan cloud revolution until we see those types. I don't think good enough is the new perfect, despite what some people say. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, in my opinion, you're already at that point with cloud applications. These features and functionalities are on par with traditional enterprise applications. What I think the usage factor isn't up to the system itself, it's up to the capabilities of an organization to be able to adopt all those features. And not all organizations are mature to take features of a full-blown CRM system or ERP or service management or development or whatever it is. So the usage is not, in my opinion, cloud or on-premise. The usage is up to the maturity and the capabilities of a company.
Yeah, I think that's true in the majority of cases. There are definitely individual use cases where maybe there's an extensive integration, or you've got a lot of data moving backwards and forwards between some kind of source that needs to be updated on a regular basis. And I think that still causes some organizations headaches when they need to move large amounts of information in and out of a cloud application. With the best will in the world, even with a super fast connection, it can be problematic just because of the amount of infrastructure in the way. However, I strongly suspect that we will find architectural ways of overcoming that, whether it's staging some particular data exchange via a hybrid platform, so you have a little bit of infrastructure dedicated to data exchange. And I think there's lots of, as this whole model matures, people are looking at each of these current bottlenecks and working out how to solve them. And last Zoo we talked about this emergent discipline that none of us understood of data as a service. But clearly people are thinking about this. So I think my take on it, I echo what Jeff said, but I also say watch this space, Alf, in terms of even the bottlenecks that you talked about, like how will it be in an enterprise environment where the situation is complex and there are lots of other data sources and providers. I think we'll crack that.
But how do you? So integration has always been sort of don't go to the cloud because you can't integrate this thing right now. So 3 years ago, I was sitting at one of our industry shows, and somebody was up on stage saying, "Don't go to the cloud because you can't integrate." I was like, it's just so wrong, right? So how do you explain? And I'm not saying it's necessarily on par with what we can do on-premise, especially in the financials industry. But how do you explain things like Box and Dropbox and all these other things? In essence, really what they're doing is just integrating data from one source to the next. And how those are.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's a huge amount you can do. I think people do underestimate it. Like I said, the only time I've seen it get tricky is where the volumes and frequency are extremely large, right? So, but again, I think we are on the verge of having new architectures that overcome that. Obviously, provided you're at the end of a fat enough piece of wire, unlike me.
Don't you have a cloud in the shed there in Wales?
There's clouds everywhere in Wales, but they're the old-fashioned kind.
It's funny because you were so down on the Internet of Things, both of you, last week or 2 weeks ago, and now you're celebrating the cloud like it's sliced bread. So let me ask you this then. If it's true, like Gartner and other analysts have said that 80% or so of all SaaS services within 5 years, that's 5 soon, coming soon, 5 years, is going to be in the cloud. 80% is going to be in the cloud. That's an insane amount of services being delivered from the cloud compared to how much is not being delivered from the cloud today. Is that actually going to happen? And if so, Is this the time for IT operations and service support organization to finally become what we call service brokers? Are we finally going to see that where these guys are going to step up and change completely from keeping the light on to guys who brings in the new good stuff, like it used to be back in old days?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't. I think you need to look at that 80% figure very carefully, and I would love to see how it breaks down by segment, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very easy to average these things across all organizational sizes and verticals and come up with a very large figure. If you've done it by volumes of organizations, then there are thousands and thousands and thousands of organizations who fall into that mid-sized category, be quite happy to consume most of their applications on cloud. Totally buy that. So the first thing is it would be really good to know what that is made of, but I don't think it's unreasonable. However, it's very clear to me that there are whole organizations who are undoing their cloud strategy, and there are organizations who are, for various reasons, resetting their balance, particularly on the larger scale, and those who have more sensitive information, etc. So I think, like I say, you can take that 80% with a pinch of salt. I think it is going to increase over time because it is highly practical, but I think we're learning a bit about how to what works in the cloud and what doesn't work in the cloud, and what the legal and all kinds of other restrictions are and other motivations for keeping things on premise. Put it this way, I don't think on premise is about to die.
Yeah, I agree with Chris, and I think everything will be equal, years from now, and mostly because Chris brought on a good point as education, right? I understand now fully the cloud and how that can impact the business. I know how on-premise works, and now this education gives me as an organization a longer-term strategic view, and then I can see where I need to house certain situations, applications, services.
And if the cloud is here, at least for me, so hybrid's going to be the way forward one way or another. There's not going to be one model. I mean, I spoke to one of an exceptionally large corporation by any standard, and they are going completely in-house, so no cloud service. They have a couple that they try to get rid of, and they know that there are services that lends itself to the cloud better than on-premise. Still, because of various reasons, they have decided to go in-house. Will we see more of that, or just as we see a lot of people going, they swear to the cloud, or is the most of the average American, at least, or global companies going to stay somewhere in the middle between some cloud, some on-premise, and a hybrid environment, so to speak?
Yeah, my assumption is that was a political decision on why they want to take everything on premise, and sometimes politics is going to trump logic any day. So logic is going to say it's going to be an equal game moving forward.
But we're going to see most of them being in the middle place between cloud and land, so to speak.
That's where I think it's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it's about fitness for purpose. And I think we're learning what that means as cloud evolves.
Very good. Thank you so much, guys. We time to wrap up. For everybody out there, be safe, take care. See you in a few weeks.